Hello everybody. Well, you may wonder what I'm doing here with Doug Nicholls, standing in a garden in Bognor Regis, but all will become apparent as the conversation unfolds. So Doug, something very interesting happened in that holm oak up there. You were going to tell me about what happened in that tree.
Well, William Blake, who was here from 1800 to 1803 with his wife Catherine, making some prints and writing some fantastic poetry, he was always seeing angels and visions.
Yes.
And the one particular one that moved him here was seeing an angel of one of his great heroes, the poets from the 17th century, John Milton.
The author of Paradise Lost.
That's the one.
So if we're here, 1803, you're William Blake, I've come to say hello, and you're in the middle of a vision. You're seeing John Milton as an angel speaking to you. This great hero of the alternative religious past, the anti-Catholic past for Blake, a hero of the imaginative vision.
Yep.
He speaks to you. May I ask you, why, William Blake, why are you here in the first place?
Well, I'm here because I was having a terrible time in London and I've never made much money from my work, but one of my friends, William Haley, has kindly offered me this cottage to come down and do some engravings and prints for him of a poet called William Cowper. But the whole environment in Felpham, which is where we are in east of Bognor, and the beautiful countryside and the sea around me has inspired me no end. So I'm now going to write something which one day might become almost an unofficial national anthem. It's a song called Jerusalem.
And it's written here, and that's why we're here. Now come with us round here and you'll actually see, you know, instead of just seeing this garden, what I want you to see is this. It's a sort of largely unknown, great British monument. Do you know what it reminds me of? Do you know what, I've just realised what it reminds me of. There's a little building in a little town in Holland, which is Spinoza's cottage, where he wrote the Ethics. And that has been preserved in Holland as a museum to their greatest philosopher, Spinoza. This little house just outside Bognor Regis with its, we'll see more of that in a minute, with its really badly preserved thatched roof that's actually falling in. This is where one of the greatest cultural figures of the 18th century in all of Europe, let alone Great Britain, William Blake, wrote one of his most important works, where he had this sort of period of astonishing growth and ferment. And yet the house is falling down. Nothing has been done as of yet to make it into a national monument. We're on the way. That's why I'm here with Doug today. He's going to tell us about what they're planning, hoping to do. But that's why we're here, to make a little film about this astonishing building, which, you know, until maybe a month ago, when I met Doug and other aficionados of William Blake actually at an event at Sotheby's to do with the selling of a rare manuscript of the Songs of Innocence and Experience, I knew nothing about it. But you know, isn't it beautiful? Isn't it fantastic? And the setting, so peaceful, so quiet. I can't think of a building anywhere in this country that I want more to see, you know, to see something done with, and to see it really thriving and prospering, and you know, have something made of it. But anyway, Doug, should we? You're my guide today, so
Okay.
so let's go inside. This is a 70s extension, is that right?
That's about it, yeah, a 70s extension plonked on the back of it. And hopefully, if our plans come to fruition, that would go and there'd be an inspirational, cultural and educational centre here for artists, poets and printers and others.
I should explain at this point that the Blake Trust raised money to buy this building. It was bought in a trust set up, sorry, the Blake Society bought this building about 9 years ago, set up a trust to oversee the building, which is the Blake Cottage Trust, and Doug is the chairman of that trust. And in conjunction with the authorities at Bognor Regis, which is undergoing a kind of cultural, mini-cultural renaissance of its own with a new theatre and various, Bognor is trying to project an image to people in this country and elsewhere that it's more than a seaside resort,
Indeed.
and that it's got more to offer culturally. And this building, I hope, might be right at the centre of those plans. Is that correct?
We very much hope so. There's all sorts of blue plaques actually around Bognor celebrating artists and literary figures. Even James Joyce was in Bognor. There's a blue plaque to Blake, but this is really the only building, as it were, where such creativity took place.
But it's very romantic. There's a beautiful little early drawing we can show you later. There's a drawing that Blake made of the house when he was here, and it actually still, you really feel that it's definitely this place. It's not, you know, if you see past the, you know, the later extensions, which are rather ugly, and focus on the main building itself, you really do feel like you're in the same place. And the garden as well, I imagine, was always constrained to a degree by the neighbouring buildings, because we're in a village, aren't we?
The neighbouring buildings are actually relatively recent. When Blake here, it was mainly fields to the north and then fields to the south, going down to the sea about 2 or 3 minutes away.
Yeah.
So it was very different then. But indeed, inside, the building materials experts and the conservation reports that we've had done tell us that many of the features were as they were when Blake was here.
Let's go and have a look inside. So here we are, and we're entering through the 70s bit.
That's right.
Wow. It certainly feels like not much has been done for a while, doesn't it?
There was somebody living here until about 9 years ago. And now we're entering the part that Blake would have known.
So this is the Blake threshold.
This is it, and a very unhealth and safety friendly spiral staircase that he would no doubt have walked up when he was here.
Well, I'm going to come back, I think, to this in a minute.
And then you'll see some of the internal damage to the walls that's being done by the rapidly worsening, leaking roof.
So Blake came here. He was given, as I understand it, the publisher and poet Haley, who commissioned him to make this work for an edition of Cowper's poetry with illustrations by Blake, and he was going to be doing some printing. So he was given this house free of charge, and Blake's always held up.
Always. He's buried in a pauper's grave, and it was only relatively recently that some enthusiasts put up a grave marker for him.
Yeah, amazing. A pauper, but as far as I can tell, my feeling is that he was a very contented visionary pauper. He felt so spiritually enriched that the relative poverty in which he lived, he coped with extremely well.
It appears that he managed to do that, and of course if he was around today he would be very rich. The Songs of Innocence of Experience original copy from 1794.
That's when we
sold for 4.3 million 2 weeks ago.
I know. Well, that's when it was a month ago, I think. Well, that's when we met.
That's right. Yeah.
And you said, "Why don't you come and look at the cottage?" Because I was doing an event in relation to that sale. But it was such a beautiful little edition of the poems. But you're right, in Blake's own time, there were 6 editions, and they were just given to friends. Now it's sort of, as you say, £4 million a pop, but isn't it always the way?
Seems to be.
And is this, I think you told me that this end was where he actually did the printing, you say?
Everyone says that this was the room where he constructed his printing press. Apparently it took 17 hours to get it down from London, and it was put up in here. He had a pioneering printing technique, and one of our former trustees is an expert in that and has actually made replicas of his printing machine. So one idea we have, possibly, is that we put a replica up here so that fine art students and print students can actually learn that very interesting technique that he had.
He wrote quite a lot about it. I think it involved acid, because he writes in some of his, I think it's asides, or perhaps even in some of his poetry, about the corrosive effect of the acid, which he, I think, is implicitly inviting us to compare with the corrosive effect of his words on the narrow preconceptions of those who cannot see the truth about the world in which they live.
That wouldn't surprise me at all, but also it's an extremely difficult technique because it was in relief, so he had to learn to write backwards.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
it sounds very, very William Blake. I just think this place is so full of kind of character and spirit, and you feel, in here, it feels like it's haunted by the spirit of Blake.
Many people say that they feel the spirit of Blake actually in this particular room. And I have to say, although I'm not a superstitious person myself, I've felt some strange, good feelings in this room.
I'm going to leave you just briefly, because it's a bit of a sort of narrow squeeze up those stairs, and just have a little look on my own, if I may, at William Blake's bedroom, basically. And I'll come back, and in a minute we could perhaps have a little chat about what you're planning to do with the building and what you, because I know that you've got some plans. But I'll just
two features to bear in mind.
Yeah.
Small, narrow fireplaces mean poor person's cottage. Smaller the fireplace, the poorer the cottage. Wider the floorboards, the poorer the cottage. And so you'll see up there wider floorboards and a small fireplace.
Gosh, I didn't know.
So it was a labouring person's cottage.
Ah.
Agricultural workers type cottage.
Well, I live in an agricultural type person's cottage in Sussex, and it's got very wide floorboards and very small fireplaces upstairs.
There we go. Now you know.
So, there you go. I feel poorer now. Are you going to be able to come up, Kate?
I don't know.
Have a go. Here we go. Health and safety in the website filming process is very important. No, thanks. Doug's not liable. I am liable, Kate, so you take care. So here we are, look. I think I'm pleased to be doing this for our website because no one else is going to film here. And I like to think that when this place has been done up, perhaps in however many years' time, we can come back and we can compare. This is the before, and I'm really hoping that there's going to be an after. But here we are, in this little poor artisan's cottage, next to Bognor Regis, a minute from the beach. William Blake, 1803, working on Cowper. And writing Jerusalem, in here, look. And did those feet in ancient times walk up? Isn't this fantastic? The thatched roof is falling in. God, isn't it fantastic? It's really something. Oh. Bring me my bow of burnished gold. Bring me my arrows of desire. Oh, clouds unfold. Someone better mend the roof before they do. I just think this place is so full of the spirit of Blake. Look at the tiny little fireplace. Look at the tiny little fireplace. You've got to admit, it does deserve to be preserved, this place, don't you think? I mean, someone has to do something to preserve it. I don't know what you do exactly with it. I'm sure Doug's going to have some ideas. My feeling is just free-forming. I think you need to involve Tate and perhaps work with Tate Museum. Make sure that when this place opens as a Blake Centre, if it ever does, that there would actually be some William Blake work here. And then maybe have, some kind of programme of visiting writers, visiting artists. They'd get lots of inspiration. I bet they would, living and working here for a month or two. And, you could have an exhibition programme. You could have a Blake exhibition programme if you had support from somebody who really had a great collection of Blake, like the British Museum or the Tate. The Tate seems the most obvious. And then you could also have a contemporary programme at the same time where you'd be showing work inspired by Blake, related to Blake's ideas. I mean, I think the whole thing's so full of potential. And I need to find Doug again. Doug, where are you? He's gone. Maybe it wasn't Doug. Maybe it was the spirit of William Blake. Wow. I'm sure we'll find him eventually. Oh, Doug. There you are.